In a peaceful neighborhood, the sun shone brightly on a warm afternoon as children laughed and played outside. Among them was a cheerful 9-year-old girl, full of energy and imagination. She loved to play games with her friends, chasing after each other and pretending to be superheroes. This particular day, she and her friends had gathered in a nearby park, their laughter echoing in the air as they enjoyed their carefree moments together. As they played, a concerned neighbor spotted them and misinterpreted their playful antics. Seeing a group of kids running around, he thought something was wrong and decided to call the police. The man didn't realize the children were just having fun. Instead, he assumed they were up to no good. His quick decision would soon lead to a series of events that would change everything. Within minutes, a police car arrived at the park, lights flashing and sirens blaring. The officer, a man dressed in a uniform, stepped out. He seemed serious and focused, ready to investigate the report he had received. The children stopped playing and looked at him with wide eyes, unsure of what was happening. They had never seen a police officer up close, and the sight filled them with a mix of curiosity and fear. The officer approached the little girl, who had been running the fastest in the game. He asked her what she was doing, expecting a clear answer. But instead of listening to her innocent explanation, he decided to treat her as if she had done something wrong. The girl, feeling frightened and confused, tried to explain that they were just playing, but her words fell on deaf ears. The officer was convinced he needed to take action. Without considering the situation fully, the officer placed handcuffs around her small wrists. The girl's heart raced as she felt the cold metal close around her. Tears filled her eyes as she cried out for her friends and for her mother, who was nowhere in sight. The other children watched in disbelief, their laughter turning into gasps of shock. They couldn't understand why their friend was being treated this way. In the moments that followed, the little girl was taken away, leaving her friends scared and confused. News of the incident quickly spread through the community. Parents heard about what had happened and felt a surge of anger and concern. How could an innocent child be treated like a criminal? They gathered together, determined to support her and demand justice. The local community, a close-knit group of families, began to rally. They held meetings, discussed the incident, and planned protests to show their support for the little girl. Signs were made, and people took to the streets to voice their outrage. The atmosphere was filled with a sense of unity and determination as neighbors joined forces to demand accountability from the police. They wanted to make sure something like this would never happen again, especially to a child. As the protests grew louder, the officer remained unaware of the storm he had set in motion. He continued his day, dismissing the gathering crowd as overreacting. But the community was just getting started. They were determined to stand up for what was right and protect their children from injustice. The events that followed would show just how powerful a community could be when they came together for a common cause. In that moment, the girl, her friends, and the community were about to embark on a journey of change. The little girl's innocent laughter had turned into a rallying cry for justice, igniting a fire in the hearts of those around her. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of a much bigger story that would unfold in the days to come. As news of the little girl's arrest spread, people from all over the community started to pay attention. Parents who had heard the story shared it with friends and family, and soon, the tale of the 9-year-old girl being taken away by police became a hot topic of conversation. People were shocked and saddened. How could a young child, who was simply playing with her friends, end up in such a frightening situation? The girl's mother was frantic. She had been at work when she received the call about her daughter. Rushing out of her office, her heart raced with worry. When she arrived at the police station, she felt a mix of fear and anger. How could anyone think her child was doing something wrong? The officer at the desk seemed uninterested in her concerns, merely stating that her daughter was being processed. Her heart sank at the thought of her little girl, scared and alone. Meanwhile, back in the neighborhood, people began to organize. They held meetings in community centers, discussing how they could support the girl and her family. Many had experienced similar situations, where misunderstandings led to harsh treatment from law enforcement. They knew they had to take a stand. Flyers were printed, and plans were made to hold a peaceful protest outside the police station. Everyone wanted to ensure that the little girl's voice was heard and that she received the support she needed. As the day of the protest approached, excitement and determination filled the air. Families gathered in homes to make posters with bold messages of love and support. Some wrote, "Children are not criminals," while others wrote, "Justice for our kids." Children joined in, eager to support their friend. They knew she was scared and needed their strength. The unity among the community grew, and a sense of hope began to blossom. On the day of the protest, the sun shone brightly, making it a beautiful day for change. People of all ages arrived, holding their signs high. The atmosphere was charged with energy as chants of "Stand up for our kids" echoed through the streets. Families, friends, and neighbors came together, showing that they would not tolerate injustice. They wanted to send a message that every child deserves to feel safe and loved, especially in their own neighborhood. As the protest unfolded, the girl's mother spoke to the crowd, her voice shaking but strong. She shared her daughter's story, explaining how her little girl had done nothing wrong. Her words touched the hearts of everyone present. The crowd listened intently, nodding in agreement, their support for the family growing stronger. People held hands and formed a circle, showing solidarity and love for the girl and her mother. The officer who had arrested the little girl watched from a distance, his heart heavy. He hadn't expected this kind of response. He thought he was just doing his job, but now he could see the impact of his actions. The support for the girl was overwhelming, and the protest had opened his eyes to the feelings of fear and injustice that many in the community faced. As the day went on, the crowd marched to the police station, where they continued to chant and display their signs. The atmosphere was peaceful but powerful, and the people were determined to be heard. They hoped to create a change in the way officers interacted with children. The little girl, still at the station, had no idea about the love and support surrounding her. But in that moment, she was not alone. The community had come together to show that they would protect their children and demand justice. The little girl's innocence had sparked a movement, and the stories of many others began to surface. This incident would change the community forever, and it was just the beginning of their fight for what was right. Together, they would make sure that their voices were heard, and that no child would ever have to face such fear again. As the protest continued outside the police station, the atmosphere buzzed with energy and determination. People held their signs high, their voices echoing a powerful message. Children deserve to be treated with respect and love. The crowd was a colorful mix of families, young children, and older community members, all united in support of the little girl. They knew that this moment was about more than just one child. It was about standing up for all children who had been misunderstood or mistreated. Inside the police station, the girl sat quietly in a small room, her heart racing. She could hear the distant sounds of voices and commotion outside, but she didn't fully understand what was happening. She was scared and confused, wondering when she would see her mother again. Just then, the door opened, and a kind officer walked in. Unlike the one who had arrested her, this officer seemed gentle and caring. He knelt down beside her and said, "Don't worry. Your mom is on her way, and everything is going to be okay." His calm words comforted her, and for the first time since the arrest, she felt a little bit of hope. As the crowd outside grew, news crews began to arrive. Journalists were drawn to the protest, wanting to capture the emotions and stories unfolding in front of them. Cameras rolled as parents shared their thoughts and feelings about the incident. They talked about how their children deserved to play without fear and how important it was for the community to stand together. Interviews were broadcasted on local news channels, spreading the message far beyond the neighborhood. Meanwhile, the girl's mother arrived at the station, her face filled with worry, but also determination. She was relieved to see her daughter, and the moment they reunited, tears filled her eyes. She hugged her tightly, whispering words of love and reassurance. "I'm so proud of you," she said, squeezing her little girl. "You are so brave." In that embrace, the little girl felt all the fear wash away. She was safe in her mother's arms, and nothing else mattered at that moment. Outside, the protest reached a fever pitch as more people joined in. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers came to lend their voices to the cause. They shared stories of their own experiences with law enforcement, recalling moments when they felt unfairly judged or treated. Each story added to the growing call for change, creating a powerful sense of unity among the crowd. They were not just fighting for one girl, but for all the children who had ever felt afraid or unfairly treated. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the scene, the community organized a moment of silence. Everyone held hands and closed their eyes, reflecting on the importance of compassion and understanding. The atmosphere shifted from anger to hope, as they envisioned a future where children could play freely without fear of being misunderstood. It was a beautiful sight to see so many people standing together, their hearts aligned for a common purpose. In that moment, a local leader stepped forward to address the crowd. He spoke passionately about the need for police reform and the importance of community engagement. He encouraged everyone to continue fighting for their rights and to make sure that their voices were heard. The crowd erupted in cheers, feeling inspired and empowered. They knew that together, they could make a difference. As the protest began to wind down, the little girl and her mother walked outside, hand in hand. The girl looked up at her mother, her eyes shining with gratitude. She felt loved and supported, knowing that her community had rallied around her. In that moment, she realized that even though she had faced something frightening, she had also experienced the power of unity and love. This was just the beginning of her journey, and she was ready to stand up for herself and others, knowing that she was never alone. After the emotional reunion between the little girl and her mother, the sense of hope and support in the community continued to grow. The protest had sparked a conversation that many had been afraid to have. Parents began to talk more openly about their fears for their children, especially when it came to interactions with law enforcement. It became clear that this was not just about one child's experience. It was a larger issue that affected many families. As the days passed, the community organized more meetings to discuss what had happened and how to prevent similar incidents in the future. They wanted to ensure that all children felt safe while playing in their neighborhoods. Local leaders stepped up, eager to work together with residents to create real change. They invited police officers to join the discussions, hoping to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. The little girl watched as her mother became more involved. She admired her mother's strength and passion, feeling proud that her story had inspired so many people. With each meeting, more and more community members came together, sharing their thoughts and experiences. They talked about how important it was for police officers to understand the innocence of childhood and the joy of play. The discussions were filled with stories of laughter, friendship, and the simple things that made childhood magical. One evening, the community hosted a forum where parents, teachers, and police officers could come together and share their thoughts. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. People wanted to express their feelings but also sought understanding. As families gathered, the little girl saw many familiar faces. Her friends were there, and they played quietly in a corner, their laughter ringing through the room. It felt good to be surrounded by people who cared about her and wanted to make things better. When it was time for the meeting to begin, a community leader spoke first. He shared heartfelt words about the importance of safety for all children. "Every child deserves to grow up without fear," he said, looking around the room. "It is our responsibility as adults to ensure they feel protected and understood." The crowd nodded, their faces reflecting a shared determination. Next, a police officer took the stage. He was one of the officers who had come to support the community efforts. He spoke openly about the challenges of policing and the need for better training in understanding how to interact with children. "We are here to protect and serve," he said, "but we must also learn from our mistakes. It's important that we listen and understand your concerns." His words resonated with many, and the audience felt a shift towards a more positive dialogue. As the forum continued, community members shared their stories, expressing both fear and hope. A mother spoke about her son, who had been frightened by an encounter with a police officer. He didn't understand why someone in uniform was treating him like he had done something wrong, she shared. I want him to feel safe, not scared. Her words brought tears to many eyes, showing just how deeply the issues affected families. With each story shared, the atmosphere in the room became more powerful. People felt heard, and the connection between the community and law enforcement began to strengthen. The little girl listened intently, her heart swelling with pride. She realized that her experience, though painful, had opened up a much larger conversation that needed to happen. As the meeting came to a close, the community decided to create a committee focused on improving communication between families and the police. They wanted to organize workshops where officers could learn how to engage with children in positive ways. The little girl felt excited about this new initiative. She knew it would help many kids in the future and hoped it would ensure that no child would have to go through what she had experienced. Walking home hand in hand with her mother after the meeting, the little girl felt a sense of empowerment. She understood that change was possible when people came together. It was a small step, but it was a step toward creating a safer and more understanding world for children everywhere. Together, they would keep pushing for progress, united in their mission to protect the innocence of childhood. As the weeks went by, the community continued to come together to address the issues that had arisen from the little girl's arrest. The support she had received had sparked a wave of change, inspiring both parents and police officers to engage in meaningful conversations. They knew that fostering understanding and trust between families and law enforcement was crucial to creating a safer environment for everyone. The committee that had been formed met regularly. They brainstormed ideas for workshops, training sessions, and community events aimed at bridging the gap between the police and the community. The little girl's mother took an active role in these discussions, often sharing her insights and advocating for the children. She had transformed her pain into purpose, wanting to ensure that her daughter's experience would lead to positive changes for others. One day, the committee decided to host a community event called Family Fun Day. The idea was to bring families and police officers together for a day of games, food, and fun activities. It would be an opportunity for children to interact with police officers in a relaxed and friendly environment, helping to build trust and understanding. The little girl was excited about the idea and couldn't wait to see her friends and the officers in a more playful setting. As the day of the event approached, the community buzzed with excitement. Volunteers worked tirelessly to set up the park, arranging games like tug-of-war, sack races, and face painting. Banners were hung, and colorful balloons floated in the gentle breeze. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and anticipation as families arrived, ready to enjoy the day together. When the event finally began, the little girl's heart soared. She ran to her friends, and they immediately jumped into the fun, playing games and laughing together. The police officers joined in too, stepping out of their roles as authority figures and becoming part of the community. They participated in the games, ran alongside the children, and even helped judge a pie-eating contest. Everyone was smiling, and the air was filled with joy and excitement. The little girl noticed one officer, who had previously arrested her, participating in a three-legged race. At first, she felt nervous seeing him again, but as she watched him laugh and cheer with the other officers, she began to feel more at ease. He seemed different in this setting, smiling and interacting with the kids. It was clear that he was trying to make amends and show that he could be friendly and approachable. Throughout the day, families shared stories with the officers. Parents expressed their hopes for their children, while kids asked questions about what it was like to be a police officer. The officers shared their own childhood experiences and talked about the importance of community. This openness created a warm and friendly atmosphere, helping to erase the fears that had lingered after the arrest. As the sun began to set, the event culminated in a heartfelt moment. The little girl's mother stood up to thank everyone for coming together. Today has shown us that we can build bridges and understand one another, she said, her voice filled with emotion. Let's continue to work together to ensure our children feel safe and loved. Every child deserves that. Her words resonated deeply with the crowd, and people clapped, cheering in support. The little girl stood beside her mother, beating with pride. She felt a sense of belonging and love that filled her heart. This event had transformed her experience into something positive, turning fear into hope. She realized that even though the past was painful, the future could be bright if the community continued to work together. As families began to pack up, exchanging hugs and promises to meet again, the little girl ran back to the officer who had arrested her. With a smile, she said, "Thank you for playing with us today." The officer knelt down, a surprised look on his face, and replied, "Thank you for giving me a chance. I'm glad to be here with you all." In that simple exchange, a new understanding was formed, showing that healing was possible when people opened their hearts to one another. The Family Fun Day had not only brought joy, but also paved the way for a stronger bond between the community and the police. Together, they were moving forward, committed to creating a safer, kinder world for every child. The little girl felt a renewed sense of hope, knowing that change was happening, and she was a part of it. With her friends by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next, confident that love and understanding would always prevail. The success of the Family Fun Day sparked a wave of positivity in the community. People were eager to continue the dialogue and work together to ensure the safety and happiness of all children. After the event, families began organizing regular gatherings where they could discuss their concerns and ideas. These gatherings created a sense of unity, allowing everyone to feel heard and valued. The little girl and her friends often played at the park where the Family Fun Day had taken place. They loved to run around, play tag, and explore the playground. But now they also felt a deeper connection to the place. It had become a symbol of change and hope for their community. They often imagined themselves as superheroes, working to make their neighborhood a better place. One day, while playing at the park, the little girl noticed a small group of children sitting quietly under a tree. She approached them and saw that they looked sad. "What's wrong?" she asked gently. One of the children explained that they were new to the neighborhood and didn't know anyone. The little girl's heart went out to them. She remembered how scared she had felt when she was arrested, and she didn't want anyone to feel alone. Without hesitating, she invited the new kids to join her and her friends. "Come play with us. We can show you around," she exclaimed. The new children looked at each other, unsure at first, but then their faces lit up with excitement. They quickly jumped up and joined the group, and soon they were all laughing and playing together. The little girl felt proud to be a part of something special, helping others feel welcome and included. As they played, the little girl shared the story of the Family Fun Day, explaining how the community had come together to support each other. The new kids listened intently, their eyes wide with amazement. They couldn't believe that something so wonderful had happened in their new neighborhood. The little girl felt a sense of joy, knowing that she was helping to create a warm and friendly environment for everyone. As days turned into weeks, the little girl and her friends continued to make an effort to include others in their games. They created a club called the Neighborhood Helpers, which focused on making their community a better place. They organized cleanup days in the park, where everyone pitched in to pick up trash and make the area beautiful. They even started a book sharing program, where children could exchange their favorite stories with one another. The neighborhood began to flourish with the help of the Neighborhood Helpers. More kids joined in, and families began to connect in ways they hadn't before. Parents would chat while their children played, sharing stories and ideas. The sense of community was growing stronger, and the little girl felt proud of the role she had played in this change. One afternoon, the committee decided to hold another event, this time a community day, to showcase all the wonderful activities that had been happening. They invited families to share their talents, whether it was music, art, or cooking. The little girl and her friends decided to perform a small skit about the importance of kindness and friendship. They practiced for weeks, putting their hearts into every line and dance move. On the day of the community day, the park was filled with laughter, music, and delicious smells. Families set up booths displaying their crafts and sharing food from different cultures. The atmosphere was vibrant and joyful, filled with the sounds of chatter and excitement. When it was time for the little girl's skit, she felt a mix of nerves and excitement. She knew this was an opportunity to spread their message about kindness and understanding. As the skit began, the audience watched with smiles on their faces. The little girl and her friends acted out scenes where they showed how to include others, share, and be good friends. They emphasized how important it was to treat everyone with respect, no matter their background. The crowd cheered and clapped as they finished, and the little girl felt a surge of happiness. Their message had reached the hearts of many. After the skit, families came up to congratulate the children. Many expressed how proud they were of their performance and the message they shared. The little girl's heart swelled with joy, knowing that their efforts were making a difference. This was more than just a day of fun. It was about building a community where everyone felt welcome and valued. As the community day came to a close, the little girl felt a warm glow of happiness. She looked around at the smiling faces of her friends and neighbors, knowing that all their hard work had paid off. The park, once just a place to play, had transformed into a hub of connection and friendship. Children ran around with their new friends, parents exchanged phone numbers, and laughter filled the air. It was a beautiful sight, and she felt proud to be part of something so special. In the following weeks, the Neighborhood Helpers Club continued to thrive. The little girl and her friends held regular meetings, brainstorming new ways to make their community even better. They decided to create a community garden where families could come together to plant flowers and vegetables. The idea excited everyone, and they quickly gathered supplies and volunteers to get started. On the day they planned to break ground for the garden, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Families gathered at the park, bringing shovels, seeds, and watering cans. The little girl led the way, her enthusiasm contagious. "Let's make this garden the best it can be," she exclaimed, and everyone cheered in agreement. With everyone working together, they dug up the earth, planted seeds, and shared tips on how to care for the plants. The little girl felt a deep sense of satisfaction as she placed the seeds into the ground. She knew they were not just planting flowers and vegetables. They were also planting the seeds of friendship and community spirit. It was a project that would bring everyone together in a shared goal. As the days turned into weeks, the garden began to flourish. Bright flowers bloomed and vegetables sprouted, much to everyone's delight. Families took turns watering the plants, and the children loved checking on their progress. The garden became a gathering place where neighbors could chat and share stories while enjoying the beauty of their hard work. It was amazing to see how something as simple as a garden could strengthen their bonds. One afternoon, the little girl and her friends decided to host a garden party to celebrate their success. They invited everyone in the neighborhood, planning games, music, and even a potluck where everyone could bring a dish to share. The excitement was palpable as they prepared for the event, and the little girl felt a thrill of anticipation. She couldn't wait to show off their beautiful garden and bring everyone together once more. On the day of the garden party, the sun shone brightly, and the park was filled with colorful decorations. Tables were set up with delicious food, and laughter echoed through the air. Families arrived, bringing their favorite dishes, from homemade salads to sweet desserts. The little girl felt like her heart could burst with joy as she saw everyone enjoying the fruits of their labor. During the party, they organized fun games like sack races and tug-of-war. The little girl's laughter rang out as she competed with her friends, feeling the joy of being surrounded by love and support. They even took a moment to admire the garden, which had grown into a vibrant display of colors and life. "Look at what we've created together," she exclaimed, and everyone nodded, pride shining in their eyes. As the sun began to set, casting a golden light over the park, the little girl gathered everyone for a special moment. She stood in front of her friends and neighbors, her heart full. "Thank you all for believing in our community and for making it a better place," she said, her voice steady. "Together, we can do amazing things." The crowd erupted in applause, and the atmosphere was filled with joy and gratitude. After the party, the little girl noticed that the spirit of community continued to thrive. People began organizing regular gatherings, creating book clubs, and even planning neighborhood movie nights in the park. The friendships that had formed through their efforts only grew stronger. Everyone was eager to help each other and continue making their community a place of kindness and support. With each passing day, the little girl learned that small actions could lead to significant changes. By working together, they had created a community where everyone felt welcome and valued. She felt empowered knowing that their efforts could inspire others to stand up for what was right and support each other in difficult times. As she lay in bed each night, she reflected on how far they had come. The little girl realized that it was not just about her journey, but about everyone working together to create something beautiful. And as she drifted off to sleep, she dreamed of a world where kindness and understanding would always shine brightly, lighting the way for future generations. She felt hopeful, knowing that they had started a movement that would continue to grow, spreading love and connection throughout their community and beyond. As the seasons changed, the community continued to thrive, and the little girl felt a sense of belonging that warmed her heart. The friendships she had built through the neighborhood helpers and the community garden became a significant part of her life. She enjoyed going to the park every day, where her friends gathered to play and share stories. Each time they met, it felt like a new adventure waiting to unfold. One sunny Saturday, the little girl and her friends decided to create a special project to help others in need. They had heard about a local shelter that provided food and support to families going through tough times. Inspired by their own experiences of coming together as a community, they wanted to give back. "Let's collect food and clothes for the shelter," the little girl suggested, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Her friends eagerly agreed, and they began planning how to make it happen. They quickly spread the word through flyers, asking families in the neighborhood to donate non-perishable food items and gently used clothing. The little girl felt proud as she watched the community come together once again. People brought in bags of rice, canned goods, warm coats, and blankets. Each item collected was a reminder of how powerful their efforts could be. The day of the collection event arrived, and the little girl and her friends set up a booth in the park. They decorated it with colorful signs and balloons to attract attention. The atmosphere buzzed with energy as families arrived to drop off their donations. The little girl greeted everyone with a big smile, feeling the warmth of community spirit around her. As the donations piled up, she and her friends organized everything neatly. They sorted through the clothes, folding them carefully and placing them in boxes. The little girl was amazed at how much love and generosity flowed from her neighbors. It was heartwarming to see people coming together for a common cause, and she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. After a few hours, they had gathered an impressive amount of food and clothing. The little girl felt proud of what they had accomplished. She knew that these items would make a difference in the lives of families who needed support. As they prepared to deliver the donations to the shelter, a sense of excitement filled the air. "We're helping people today," she exclaimed to her friends, and they all cheered in agreement. When they arrived at the shelter, the little girl and her friends were greeted by the staff, who welcomed them with open arms. They were thrilled to see the generous donations and expressed their heartfelt gratitude. The little girl felt a sense of joy, knowing that their hard work would bring smiles to the faces of those who needed it most. She realized that even small acts of kindness could create a ripple effect of positivity. As they unloaded the items, the little girl noticed a few children playing outside the shelter. They looked shy and uncertain, much like she had felt when she first encountered the police officer. She approached them with a warm smile and introduced herself. "Hi, I'm here to help, and we brought some things for everyone. Would you like to play with us?" The children hesitated at first, but soon brightened up at the invitation. The little girl and her friends organized a few games, bringing laughter and joy to the children outside. They played tag, drew with chalk, and even shared stories about their favorite activities. It was a beautiful moment, filled with the sound of happy laughter and the spirit of togetherness. The little girl felt a sense of pride as she realized how their kindness was not only helping others, but also creating friendships that would last a lifetime. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park, the little girl and her friends waved goodbye to the children at the shelter. They felt fulfilled and happy, knowing they had made a positive impact. On the way home, the little girl's heart swelled with joy. She realized that their efforts had created connections that reached far beyond their own neighborhood. That night, as she lay in bed, she reflected on the day's events. She thought about how important it was to lend a hand to those in need and how rewarding it felt to be part of a caring community. The little girl understood that kindness was a powerful force. It could bring people together, heal hearts, and make the world a better place. With a smile on her face, she drifted off to sleep, dreaming of all the wonderful adventures yet to come. She felt hopeful, knowing that she and her friends would continue to create change in their community, spreading love and kindness wherever they went. In her heart, she knew that together, they could accomplish anything, and she looked forward to making more beautiful memories in the days ahead. As the weeks went by, the little girl and her friends continued to spread kindness throughout their community. Their efforts inspired many, and soon, more children wanted to join the neighborhood helpers. It was heartwarming to see so many kids excited to contribute and make a difference. Every Saturday, they would gather in the park, brainstorming new ideas and projects to help those in need. One day, during one of their meetings, a new friend suggested they organize a book drive. "Many children don't have access to books, and we could collect some to share," she said. Everyone loved the idea, and they began to plan. They decided to ask families to donate gently used books that their kids had outgrown. The little girl felt a spark of excitement as they discussed their plans. She remembered how much joy reading had brought her and how important it was for children to have stories to inspire their imagination. The following week, they put up flyers around the neighborhood and shared the idea with their friends at school. The response was incredible. Families began dropping off boxes of books at the park, and soon there was a colorful collection of stories piled high. The little girl and her friends spent hours sorting through the books, excitedly sharing their favorites with one another. It was a fun way to spend the day, and they felt a sense of unity as they worked together. Once they had gathered enough books, they decided to set up a book fair in the park. They would invite families to come and take home books for free. The little girl envisioned children's faces lighting up as they discovered new stories waiting for them. She could already picture kids excitedly flipping through pages, finding adventures in every book. On the day of the book fair, the park was filled with laughter and chatter. Colorful signs decorated the area, inviting everyone to come and choose their favorite books. Families gathered, browsing through the collection with smiles on their faces. The little girl loved seeing everyone so engaged. She ran around, helping kids find books and sharing recommendations. "This one is my favorite. You'll love it," she would exclaim, her enthusiasm contagious. As the fair continued, the little girl noticed a shy boy standing off to the side, looking at the books but not moving closer. She remembered how she had felt in similar situations, uncertain and alone. With a kind heart, she walked over to him and said, "Hi. Would you like to check out some books with me? There are so many cool stories here." The boy looked surprised but nodded, his face brightening. Together, they explored the tables filled with books. The little girl pointed out stories that she loved, and soon the boy began to open up, sharing his own favorite genres. They discovered that they both liked adventure stories, and before long, they were laughing and chatting as if they had been friends forever. The little girl felt a surge of happiness, knowing she had helped someone feel included. By the end of the day, the book fair had been a huge success. Children left the park with armfuls of books, and parents thanked the little girl and her friends for their hard work. As they packed up, the little girl felt proud of what they had accomplished. They had not only provided books for many children, but had also created a warm and welcoming atmosphere where friendships blossomed. That night, as she lay in bed, the little girl thought about how their small acts of kindness had a ripple effect. She realized that every project they took on brought people together, creating connections that could last a lifetime. The friendships she had formed and the smiles they had shared filled her heart with joy. With a contented smile, she closed her eyes, dreaming of future adventures and new ideas for helping others. She felt grateful to be part of a community that valued kindness and support. In her heart, she knew that as long as they worked together, they could continue to make a difference, one small act at a time. And she looked forward to each new day, excited for all the possibilities that lay ahead, believing firmly in the power of friendship and community.